This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9.
Her new book, Made in
Q104.3.
Hollywood, all access with the Go-Gos. I'm holding it up right here. The Go-Gos, of course, just inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That is currently airing on HBO and HBO Max, in case you didn't know. The band, the first all-female group to write its own songs, play its own instruments, and have a #1 album with 1982's Beauty and the Beat. She is a drummer for the Go-Gos, also a songwriter with songs that have been done by Miley Cyrus and Selena Gomez and others. All the info, GinaSchock.com, gogos.com. Gina is here, and 2021, Gina, you are now two things that you weren't. You are a published author, and you are a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So 2021 is pretty good so far.
Yes, it's been really good. And I am sort of walking on air. It's just been a great time this year. It's sort of like unbelievable that everything's happened in the way it did, because it's been really rough the last couple of years for everyone. And now things are looking up in a way like they haven't since the early 80s when we got really big. It's just all these great things at once. You know, the last couple of years we had our Broadway musical, and then the documentary, and then the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and my book, and we're going to be touring, and it's just all good stuff.
It sure is. And the book, you mentioned that the idea first was just going to be like a coffee table book with lots of photos, because you're like Andy Summers, you're like Bill Wyman. For some reason, you always had a camera.
I did.
At the beginning up until this very day. But now, instead of just a coffee book with photos, you've got these amazing essays from,
different people,
unknown
friends.
people like
Right.
Jodie Foster, Pee Wee Herman, Paul, a.k.a. Paul Rubens, Dave Stewart of the Eurythmics, Kate Pearson of the B-52s, and more. So that must have been fun to read what they had to say about...
Yeah, I mean, because we were all living this thing together back then, and still are. And so I thought of different friends, over the years that would be able to give some, would be... First, that would be interested in maybe writing a little essay for the book. Everybody I called said yes. So, and when I saw what they all wrote, I was just pleasantly surprised with everything, because it was all interesting, like their perspective on
It
things.
always is, right? Because you remember something
Yes,
some way, and they remember it and other things a different way.
But it all made sense when you put it all together. And, this book has been decades in the making in my mind. I've been trying to get this thing worked out, and then it took, a year and a half to actually get it to the present form and out to the general public. So I'm super excited and very proud of this book.
Looking at the photos, and we were just looking at them before you got into the studio here, a couple members of the staff here. All those photos, they just, the 80s and 90s, it just reminds me of, wasn't life simpler or something then?
Look, you know what? When you look at this book, and in the process of putting this book together, I laughed, I cried, I felt that and everything in between. And I was reliving my life and my life in the band. But ultimately, when I look through this book, when I look at these photos, when I read all the stories and all, I wind up feeling like $1 million and like, wow, what an incredible journey this has been. How lucky have I been? I've worked hard, but this is my life. And I feel very grateful and privileged that I can present this to our fans, to the general public, and say, man, this is what it's really like from my eyes, from someone that's actually in the band, just like everybody else. I had this dream. I followed my instincts, and, anything's sort of possible if you really put your mind to it and you stay focused. And so this is a book of many, many memories that will make people laugh. And, mainly when you look at this, even the cover I think is hilarious. Look at Kathy's face is killing me, right?
Oh, fantastic. Now, that was a video shoot, right? Was that
That was the vacation video shoot.
The vacation video shoot.
Yeah.
The photos in the book, literally almost everyone. The Rolling Stones, who you toured with. The Police, who you toured with. In fact, I saw the Go-Gos open for the Police at McNichols Arena in Denver I forget
wow.
that a 1980. I don't know what it was.
It would
but
probably be the beginning of 82, maybe, I think.
Yeah. And you also opened for David Bowie.
Yeah.
You've got photos with Mr. Bowie.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was lucky enough to meet David Bowie 3 times and actually be able to hang out with him. And the first time is an interesting story. I met him first here in New York City at the Ritz. We weren't even signed to a record deal yet. And we'd just come back from England touring with the Specials and Madness.
right.
And so we did our big show back in the States in New York, right? Because we got the beat was happening as an import. They were playing it in the clubs. So we do our show. We come off stage, and our tour manager comes back and said, so guess who's here tonight? It's John and Yoko, David Bowie, and Pete Townsend. Right.
What?
Now, of course, all the guys from Madness were there because we had just been on tour with them.
Yeah,
We all
yeah.
had boyfriends in the band and whatever. So we were flipped out. We're like, oh my God, let's get to the VIP room. Can't wait to meet them. Unfortunately, John and Yoko had left during the encore. So we never got to meet them. And then subsequently, a couple months later, he was gone. But to think that he actually saw us play made me feel really good. And I'll never forget that as long as I live. And, of course, we went back into the VIP room, and there was David Bowie and his ever-present person, Coco. She was always with him.
Right.
And I got to talk to him. It was really, I just remember it being really hard for me to speak because I was in such awe the first time of meeting this guy. We didn't even have a record deal. We were just kind of on our way up, but hadn't made it by any means. And he loved the band, and I couldn't believe he was actually there to see us. And I had a wonderful conversation with him, and then Pete Townsend being there. Although Pete at the time was having way too big of a party, and I'll never forget. He was in a white raincoat, and he had his arm draped on a woman on either side of him. They were kind of holding him up.
Wow.
And he sort of walked around the party all night like that. I was like, hey, Pete, whatever. But
Feeling no pain.
yeah, he was having a good time. So,
we talk about other people that you have photos with in this book: Robert Palmer, Joan Jett, John Belushi, Rick Ocasek, Billy Joel. The list goes on and on. And this is, as you mentioned, a lot of these photos. The first album is just sort of like blowing up, and your world is changing by the day, and you can't even take it all in and, realize what's happening. Doing the book, you have more time to sort of absorb things. And as you were just saying, you can appreciate it a lot more than you were then, because you're just like, okay, where are we going? Like, okay, we got to go to England,
You know the way it works. You know exactly how it works. You're so busy in the moment doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, you don't really have a lot of time to think about what's going on. And you are meeting all these incredible people. And for that very moment when you're meeting them, you're like, oh my God, this is incredible. You forget about it a minute later because there's so much happening coming at you at breakneck speed.
You got to get into a car or a plane or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So all that's happening. But Jesus, in retrospect, I can't believe this has been my life. I mean, this is like a dream. This is a dream. This is my dream come true. When I was a kid in Baltimore, I'm still that kid in Baltimore, and I'm still a big fan of everyone. You know? I cannot believe that I made it in this business, and I've been in the Rock and Roll Hall of... I mean, all this is like... I feel like I'm going to wake up and this was like some incredible dream. I'm not kidding. It's
dream
really,
come true, Gina.
It's really crazy.
I read in the book that your first concert was one that many people would be quite envious of. Led Zeppelin opening up for The Who at Merriweather Post Pavilion in your home state of Maryland. I mean, talk about just the drummers in that band.
Oh, yeah. That was, I was 11 years old, and the ticket price, I think, was $350. Oh. And if you see on the ticket, they spelled lead, L-E-A-D. This was Led Zeppelin's first U.S. tour. And I swear to God, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And especially, you see Led Zeppelin plays, John Bonham's, just everything about them made your jaw was dropping the whole time. And then the Who come out and just destroy all their instruments. Everything. I was 11 years old. I didn't know what the hell was going on, but I thought, whatever that is, I want to be up there on that stage doing what they do.
Right.
Put me anywhere. I don't care what I play. I just want to be up there with these guys. And I didn't think about, I'm a girl. I can't do that. That didn't even enter my mind.
I mean, as an 11-year-old, when you see that, it's got to be, I wasn't that young seeing a show. Yeah,
I know. It was like, I don't even know what I was thinking. All I know is that it really blew my mind. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and all I knew from that moment on is that I have to do what they're doing. I've got to do that. So that's when I started saving my money. And, well, I was already saving my money buying records, concert tickets, blah, 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 magazines, T-shirts, anything to do with music. But then I started buying instruments. And I bought a bass, took lessons, got a guitar, took lessons, that for a month or two. Then I thought, oh, this is way too slow for me. I'll try the drums. So I bought drums and put headphones on like I always would to learn to play stuff. And I didn't have to think. I didn't have to think at all. My body just made the movements. It made complete sense. And I stuck with the drums. I've never taken a lesson, but it's always been so very natural and kind of easy.
And you have said that John Bonham and Charlie Watts
were my
as well
idols. Were my idols. Yeah.
Really sort of influenced like your decision to really go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I idolized them both for very different reasons because they were both exceptional at what they did, but their styles were completely different. Charlie to the Stones was the rock. He was the glue holding it all together. He was like a human metronome. The guy was just so spot on everything. He played exactly what was necessary for those songs. And now John Bonham, he had a lot of fills and all, his incredible footwork. It worked beautifully for that band. It was exactly what it was supposed to be. So they, really different, but perfect for their bands. Made sense. What the fills or the not playing fills, whatever they did or didn't do, made exact sense for those songs. They played for the songs.
The right drummers for the right bands.
You got
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
And same with Keith Moon, obviously, because now, what do you, I know what a lot of people think. I mean, the Showtime documentary on the band in 2020 really helped the band, get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
It helped people also recognize us again. I think they might have lost sight of the band, but part of it was when the musical came out on Broadway, that started to get people's interest in, again, the Go-Gos, and when the documentary came out, I feel like, anybody that's seen it loves it, and it really is. We're 100% happy with it. I think that Allison did an incredible job. Her editing skills were incredible. She knew exactly what to do to show us in the way that we wanted to be seen.
The footage, my God!
And it was all there. And you know what? Interestingly enough, 95% of the photographs that you see in the doc are all mine.
Yeah,
many of them are in the book.
Yes, they are so good. When you first joined the Go-Gos, and you have photographic evidence of this in the book.
Oh, yeah.
You had this awesome afro. That looks so amazing.
Yeah, the band really loved that.
And then, so you get the gig with the Go-Gos, and then they sort of took you aside and sort of punkified you, right?
They groomed me for the punk scene in LA.
So great.
You know what? Look, man, I came out there. I was a musician, number one. That's all I cared about. I went out there to make it. And, when I saw them play, I thought, here's diamonds in the rough. They need a little bit of work, but there's something special here. And so when I got the chance to join the band, I did. And if they would have had me in a goddamn clown suit, I'd have been wearing that. Whatever worked. And you know what? Look, I wasn't into fashion that much, but it didn't take very long before I knew exactly what I needed to get when we went to thrift stores.
The thrift stores
so
on Melrose.
Everything we wore came from a thrift store.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Tell me about that night, because it's airing on HBO and HBO Max now. We have finally gotten to take a look at it. So tell me about that night.
Well, it was one hell of a night. Really incredible. As I said a little earlier, I didn't think much about it. When it first happened, that's great. That's great. Wow, we're going to be inducted. I guess it had been such a long time, we had all given up. And when it actually happened, we were happy about it, but I don't think it really hit us. But that night, I don't think any of us were touching the ground. We were walking on air. We were so knocked out by all of the respect and the love happening in that room for this band. I mean, when we walked up on stage and started playing, people stood up, started dancing and singing every word, and they didn't stop until we finished all three songs.
Man.
And then Drew came out. And it It was like being at a go-go's show. Because when we play, everybody stands up, sings, and dances.
Turned into a party, right?
Yeah, it's a party, and it's a good thing. You know, it's what the world needs. It's it's a good time for the go-go's to be out and about, I'll tell you.
And Drew Barrymore, she came out to do the induction speech, and then something else happened. Tell us about that.
So we were all backstage watching this, getting ready to. We're going to go out and perform, but she was going to go out and give her speech first. And as she's talking, she grabs a brown paper bag, and starts pulling stuff out of it. She, leans over, ties her hair up in a towel. Then we knew it was coming. She gets out like cold cream or whatever, starts putting it on her face. Everybody knows is like, you know it's coming. She kept talking very nonchalant about the whole thing. In the meantime, we were all in the back, we were all teared up.
Oh man,
because it was
so good.
It was a real moment. It was like
so perfect.
A true real moment that was happening. That was like, she was so cool about it. And then we talked to Drew afterwards, and I had no idea how important the band really was to her. I mean, I know she was at many, many shows. We would see her backstage all the time.
She was young, though,
She was
too.
very young.
Right, yeah.
But she went through a lot of difficult times at a young age, and she just said that the Go-Go's, saved her ass, and she owes so much to the band. And, I mean, we were all sort of taken aback. We knew we were in her life, but we didn't know how it fit into her life, how we fit into her life, and apparently in a big way.
You go into the book, it says somewhere in the book, the Go-Go's, the band will never end, right?
Well, the band will never end, because there'll always be moments like this that'll be out and about somewhere on YouTube, or, and the legacy of this band will just live on and on. And, I don't know when we're ever going to stop. We've threatened many times, but I don't know. We just keep going on, and it still feels fresh and good, and people still care. People still want to be at the shows. Things sell out very quickly. Anything we do, wow, it's really good to be a go-go.
Well, I mean, that was my point, because you actually do have tour dates. The band is touring. You have book signings coming out for this book, and all the info on that you can find at GinaSchock.com and go-gos.com. And I sure hope there's a New York City show with the Go-Go's coming up.
I can tell you this right now.
Okay, good.
What last year and then this year, but our summer tours all got canceled, and we, of course, New York was on the itinerary. We quickly set up some shows on the West Coast, only the West Coast, for December and the beginning of January. Then we have scheduled next June and July, we're going to be special guest appearance with Billy Idol in the UK, and we're playing like Wembley, Leeds Arena, all these really fantastic venues. And they're starting to set up stuff in the States.
Right.
So New York City,
Jones Beach, PNC, something like that.
So much around the city, but I love this city. This is my second home. It always has been. It always will be. And we love being here. Are you kidding? It's LA and New York for this band. So I hope we get around here next year. I know we all want to.
I think it'll happen by next
please.
summer, 2020.
Please let it happen.
I think we'll be good. So here's the book again. I'm going to hold it up for the camera. Gina Schock, Made in Hollywood, all access with the Go-Go's. This is a fantastic book, and all the info, GinaSchock.com, go-gos.com for the book signings, for the tour dates, for the book, for the music, for everything. Gina Schock, thank you so much.
I appreciate your time, and I am so excited to share this book with everybody. Honestly, I really am, because it's all my personal stuff in there.
Photos are amazing.
Thank you, sweetheart.
This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.